guys, it's me again. It's weekend. I hope everybody have a good weekend. Anyway, my name is Ruowen Huang, and I'm an author, life coach, and also psychic. Sorry, it took a while for me to get back. It's a slow morning for me. So anyway, today we're gonna talk about what is the task of life. Yesterday we talked about what's the purpose of life. And then, anyway, let's quickly sum it up so we kind of got an idea of it. A soul, we talk about reincarnation, we talk about soul. Soul have the nature of evolution. I mean, we're always seeking for a better living, better way of being, a better way of living. So with that nature, we will set a life, a reincarnation. That's why I get into the reincarnation. The whole reincarnation based on our purpose of life, which we talked about yesterday. So with that purpose of life, unfortunately, we plan task of life. The test of life, the purpose of test of life is just so we can overcome one thing after the other before we can reach that purpose of life of ours. So yesterday we roughly tell you what the purpose of life is. Usually if a soul, the purpose of life is something that you can carry, you can bring it with you once you die, right? So we roughly talk about that. In order to reach that purpose of life, that could be, how to love, how to share, how to, feel the happiness and things like that. We then plan tests of life. Just because, no pain, no gain. We only learn through obstacle. We don't learn from happiness. When you feel happy, you don't actually learn much. You just know that you really want that. So, that would be later on with describing why emotion is there. So anyway, back to the test of life. I think a little bit through client self-experience or, friends or a lot of guinea pig, thanks to you all. I do realize when it comes to test of life, there is a pattern that you can actually spot. You can spot a pattern of it. So now I'm going to share with pattern of it with you guys, and then you can kind of think about it, right? That patterning, I better use an example. The example is if some soul come to this life with the purpose of life is to learn to love themselves. So that was love myself as a purpose of life. The patterning that is going to plan is between your 5 to 10-year-old, you will set a program. You will some sentence will come up to your head that is say, nobody loved me. So it's weird, but it happens sometime between 5 to 10, and then the sentence usually start with I. So it's usually circle around you, right? So I'm not good enough, I'm not loved, or I'm not capable. So it could be anything, but usually start very simple and it's usually subject me, I, right? So it usually happens somewhere between 5-year-old to 10-year-old. Once that sentence is formed in a person, then what happens is they will spend next 10 to 15 years, that is from 10-year-old to somewhere, I would almost say somewhere around 25 years old, to prove that sentence is correct. That means they will continue collecting evidence like how they are not loved. So they will give you scenario. It's almost, no brainer. If I ask people, they will give me tons of scenario to prove how they are not loved by people. So when that sentence start, now they have a sentence, and then now they have evidence to prove they are very right, all right, and things like that. Somewhere between 25 to 35 is when they start to have the world start crumbling a little bit. That means they will still try to prove the world like how that sentence is so correct. I'm not loved, nobody loved me, or things like that. But meanwhile, they will start seeing that sentence doesn't seem to apply with some people. This is a time like your world supposed to, rattle a little bit, shake a little bit, just so, purpose of that is so that you can have to break that belief a little bit, so you can start accepting other possibility. So somewhere around 40, I would say usually happen around 40 years old or 40. It depends. It really depends. I just give you roughly idea, but then you can really apply that patterning and go back and think about what is that sentence that you plan for yourself. So somewhere between 40 and 50 is usually the time that you should find there's a possibility of other way of living. That is, maybe I am love, but you're not quite sure about that. So you start, because based on that rattle between your 25 or 35, you start having a sentence, even though at a 5-year-old you say, nobody loved me. Now you start saying, maybe somebody loved me, but you are not quite sure. You will still hold on to that story, like evidence that you believe so strongly, to start, take your baby step. That's usually where you take the baby step. So when you are 40 or 50, you actually start to think, maybe there's a possibility I am loved, but I'm just not quite sure how I'm loved, right? So usually around 60 is the time you should really have that, breakthrough and really believe that you are loved. Even that love is, by you or by ourselves, but it's a long process. But the purpose of that is so that you grow to understand what it is that you come to this life to learn. So you might learn, I had to learn. Well, the love doesn't come from people, but love comes from me loving myself first. So after that, the moment you start evolve and understand that's it, what it is that you were supposed to really live a life of loving yourself, so you can really embrace that skill. So that is what I meant by test of life. The test of life is, it gives you obstacle, make it seem so hard for you, and then in order to reach that goal. But as I say, I just give you a rough idea. It may or may not apply to everybody, but it will apply to, as far as I can see, majority of people. But what I do also notice is sometimes people are, stuck by that difficulty. They feel so defeated, so they cannot move forward. It's easier for them to live in their story, like nobody loved me, and then they continue collecting the evidence. I tell you, nobody loved me. So unfortunately, that does happen a lot. But, the thing is, if you do understand the patterning and you do figure out what's that sentence for you, you have a way to shorten this. You have a way to shorten this whole process a little bit shorter. And then you are able to really fully appreciate who you are as a being and fully accelerate that potential. So anyway, the test of life is never easy, but it's very gradual. If you do your task little by little, you will notice it is there for a reason. Usually your your spirit guide is the one who monitor you and make sure you are on the right track. That means they will make sure you do your grade A, the grade 1 task before evolve you to the grade 2. And then, you will come to a point, we all know, right? If we don't do our homework, eventually we're going to have so overwhelming, and then we just give up. That is basically what happened to majority of people, that I would say. But the truth is, we also know, even though we are buried by homework, but as soon as we pick up that one task and work it, the task will only get less, right? And then it will only get easier because you're getting so good at this. So test of life could be easier as long as you're willing to deal with it. They very much always only planted everywhere around your life. It can be your friendship. Like, let's say, I'm going to give you an example, maybe that's easier to understand. If I don't love myself, if I don't love myself, I'm collecting my whole life believing, everybody's always judge on me of some kind, right? Because that's a sentence I planted for myself. So what my difficulty will have to deal with, like test 1, 2, 3, I'm going to show you, is I probably become very shy. I probably become very introvert. I just cannot talk to people because I'm afraid people are always going to judge me. So that might be my very first task. My first task is I have to find a way to express myself. So that very first task, the chances it will plenty everywhere. You will start with the very easy one, that is a colleague, your colleague. Then your friends, then your lover, or then your family, right? So after I learn to, speak up for myself, I may find out, well, not everybody is judgmental of me. So then I start to say, okay, I can speak up right now. Now I might start to look for the next step. Next step might be what it is that inspires me, right? So after I can express myself and truly be who I am, and then maybe I have to let go of some friend. Maybe I would get a new friend. But the thing is, after I can be myself, the chance you will attract the people who support that, right? Because that's what I say universe does. You will still have majority of people who probably fight against, because that's how environment train them. But the chances you will also attract the people who will stand in that belief. So then as I go on, I will start looking into deeper thing. So basically what I try to say here is, just imagine purpose of life as you are going for a camping trip. We all know we cannot go for a camping trip unprepared, right? So the test of life is like you are collecting stuff for camping. So by the time you camp, you'll be warm and okay. So, your test life may be, okay, now I'm going for camping as my purpose of life. And now your test of life would be go find sleeping bag, and go find, mattress, go find a tent, go find cooking stuff. So if you change your perception a little bit like that, and understand every difficulty that throw on your face is basically just to get you prepared for a greater things to come, then you would be, you would be more willing to deal with it instead of getting defeated by it. So anyway, I also have people ask me, is it possible to have many purpose of life in one life? I'm here to try to say, usually this is what happens. You will have a major purpose of life. That is the end goal, like how I'm going to love myself, how I'm going to really appreciate myself, how I'm going to give love, or how I'm going to be happy, right? But everybody's different, so understand that. Then the test of life, as I say, you will probably, in order to love yourself, you learn to speak up, you learn to stand up, you learn to enjoy yourself, or things like that. Those little things, it seems like a mini goal. Yes, it seems like mini goal, but it's not really the purpose of life. It's just the way you overcome your test of life, and then give you a little reward. Usually if you overcome your test of life, you have a little reward, like you feel better of yourself. You feel, you just feel rewarded. That's what I try to say. So anyway, I hope that explain what test of life is to you guys. And, as I say, you can always go back and find out what that pattern is. You really have to dig in yourself to find out what that sentence you set up for yourself when you were 5 or 10, I'm not good enough, nobody loves me, or, things like that. Once you understand what is a task, usually you are able to understand what your purpose is. That is, if nobody loves me as a task, the chances you're supposed to love yourself. So anyway, I hope that answered you guys' question. And then, as usual, if you like what I'm doing, like me, or go to my Facebook, or join us on Periscope, just search my name, or go to my website, ruowen.com. And I think that's it for this week. And next week, I'm going to talk about vocabulary again. Next week, let me thank you. Thank you too. Thank you for joining us. So next week, I'm going to start introduce a couple of vocabulary too. I will introduce another word I use a lot. It's called database. As a soul, we have a database, and quite a big one of it. So I will introduce that word to you guys. I use that a lot because I'm a computer worker. So next Monday, we will talk about the database. And I guess till then, we'll see you next Monday at 10. Bye.